Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Shadow, and we're back here with another video. Now, you might have noticed that my environment changed a bit compared to previous videos, as because I am dealing with a huge pain in the ass rat issue right now, and I am trapped in my room essentially because I have rat traps and shit out in my loft to catch these little fuckers. So that explains the change of environment. But anyways, today's topic is about the power of questions. And so pretty much every major invention, every great idea, everything great has always started with a question. Essentially, if you ever want to get an answer, you gotta start with a question. This video is gonna delve into critical thinking, as well as just how questions are useful in day-to-day life when it comes to anything from relationships to studying to improving your experience as a person, as well as just strengthening your spirituality and really any aspect of growth and learning. So in general, there are two types of questions that stem from the mind. We have questions, number one, questions that are internal. So these come from your mind, and these can be just, random thoughts that wander in your head, or things that you're just wondering that you're not externalizing that to other people. Now, I'll give some examples on this later, but this is just one of our points. So number two is questions that are external. So these are questions that you ask other people. So now we can take a look at some of the scenarios where these questions will be asked. So external, that would be something along the lines of observation. Like, say your dad is out in the driveway and you see him doing some work in the car, and you see that and you're like, "Hey dad, what are you doing?" And then he starts to tell you that, "Oh yeah, I'm working on changing my low beam headlights," which is something I actually had to do recently, so go figure. And then that alone can stem another question, which in this case, since you asked about low beams, you can ask your dad how to set up the low beams. So your initial question, which this was kind of impromptu, off the rip, but you found an answer to how to change low beams just from asking a question. And then you asked someone else who had knowledge on that topic, and that's how you grew. I'm gonna get a bit into internal questions because these are things that you can do yourself. So internal questions would be like, for example, I just get random wandering thoughts all the time about things I'm curious about, which this also is gonna delve into something that's another video topic. So now we can talk about internal, which are things that, like random thoughts that wander in your head, things that you're curious about that, just when you're by yourself and you want to look something up and do the research on your own. This is what we would be talking about. For example, I'm a computer science student, so I work with coding and stuff like that. And this is really important, which this is relatively straightforward and obvious, but trust me, it will help out if you can really understand the ins and outs of this, because you'll be able to multiply your knowledge through the application of these principles. So when I'm coding, I often run into errors or things I'm just not really sure about. So it starts when I'm confused about something or I don't understand something deeply, I'll ask a question, which will usually be internal, because unless I have someone like a teacher or a friend or a tutor, someone of that expertise, I'm usually going to start with talking to myself about it in my head. So this can look like something like, if you're doing math, why would you use this formula over another formula? Because there would often be times where, I'm sure you guys have also experienced this, where in math, I was starting to get the concept, and then when I was getting to the practical application aspect of it, I'm like, why would I use this method over a different method? Like, what specifically sets this apart? And these questions are pretty important because it will deepen your understanding and ultimately lead to better retention in the long term. Now we're going to keep internal and external questions still in mind, but I'm going to dive into a little bit of a related topic, but also off topic. As I briefly mentioned before, every major discovery or major breakthrough within the natural world has stemmed from a question. Like, for example, Albert Einstein had to ask the question of what is relativity in order to find the formula of relativity. So often, to get an answer, if you want an answer to something, you usually need to ask a question, because if you don't know where to start, you don't know where to end. And this delves into the equation of A. If you have your A and you have your C, then you'll have your B. And what this means is that if you have the start of something, and this doesn't just apply to questions, this applies to, growth journeys and other things as well. But if you know where you're starting and you know where you want to be or where you're ending, then it'll give you a pretty good idea of what's going to be in the middle, which is like the harmony between these two things. This applies to learning and questions and answers, is the fact that your A starts with a question. Because if you think about it, everything that you learn had to start from a question. So if, like, for example, Thomas Edison had to come up with, before he invented the light bulb, he had to start with a question as like, how can I, now I'm not a mind reader and guy's long dead, but like I could imagine he would be thinking something of like, how can I create a mechanism or a device that allows me to have light in the room so I can, see and do things. So the how can I make this thing happen is your A, which is the start, because once you have an idea as to where to begin, now you can start getting to these steps here. I'll give another example. If you want to go to the gym and have a nice physique and look jacked, that end goal would be your C. So you're ripped. It's like a really shitty muscle drawing, but you're ripped, that's your end goal. But in order to reach this goal, this is going to take a lot of effort and commitment. But you need to understand other aspects of how to reach this goal, because you need things like nutrition. This is going to be kind of a tight fit on the board, but nutrition, routine, exercises, muscle groups. Like, it requires different prerequisites of knowledge. And of course, like, you don't want to overcomplicate it, but you can't have your B, which is actually being in the gym and doing the right things and putting in the work, without first knowing where to start, which is, I want to be in the gym. The B would be, I'm in the gym working, getting gains, and then the C would be your dream physique. This concept will pretty much be a reoccurring pattern as you progress in life. And this is something important to remember for the duration of this video. Everything starts with a question, and in order to get your B, you need to have your A and your C. I'm going to give an example of a question that I asked myself in the past before, a couple years ago, and the answer that I found ended up helping me in the long term with just being able to deal with this issue in general. So the question started out with, okay, I'm just going to draw this. Question and then answer. The question started out with being, it was with mosquitoes, because mosquitoes love to bite my ass, bro. Like, they'll low-key ignore other people and just come to me. I don't know what it is. Well, I know what it is now, but back then I didn't know what it was. So I'm like, why are all these damn mosquitoes just fucking tearing me up? So the question was, It started with, why do mosquitoes bite me so much? Bite me so. And then from there, I had my A, because I can now start doing research and building knowledge and taking the steps to understanding, which is the B. And then the C is finally understanding why mosquitoes bit me so much, and then taking application on how to prevent them from biting me so much. So I did some personal research. I looked it up. I discovered that mosquitoes have specific blood types that they find more favorable. And I didn't know what my blood type was at the time. To be honest, I still don't fully know what it is now, but I know it's some type of O, because from what I remember, mosquitoes have a preference for like O blood type. It's like a specific type of O, but I know that my blood is more desirable to mosquitoes than other people. So then that helped answer my question. And now that I know that I'm targeted because of my blood type, I can now do things like kill mosquitoes quickly, use mosquito repellent, use things like mosquito traps. I learned more things about mosquito reproduction, like how they like to be near aquatic areas. That's how they reproduce. That's usually the habitat that they stay in. So all these things, like this deep understanding of just mosquitoes in general and why they do the things that they do, stemmed from a very simple question. So this may seem obvious, but it can lead to a lot of power and a lot of knowledge from just very simple things. If you ask a lot of questions, you're going to naturally become a very curious person. And if you're a very curious person, you're going to naturally seek out more knowledge and more information, which is just going to add to your skill set, the stuff you know, what you can apply, and just make you overall a smarter person with more tools in your toolkit. Asking a question like, why is the sky blue, may seem like a pretty simple, mundane, and not so special question, but it's the after effect of asking that question that actually leads to significant growth. Because once you look that up and understand why the sky turns blue, it's because like I think it's like blue light refracts or something like that. Then that can actually lead to another question like, oh, why do blue lights refract? And then that can just lead you down a rabbit hole of questions, answers. And you can really go as far and as deep with this as you want to on any topic that you have a preference for. While you obviously can use internal questions, which are just random thoughts that you get in your head that you look up yourself, don't forget to ask other people questions, because the thing is, we live in a world where people come from all walks of life, all perspectives, different experiences. So usually there's going to be a chance that you might find someone that's more knowledgeable than you on a certain topic. So you can combine your knowledge, your experience, the stuff that you personally research on that thing with their knowledge, their experience, to just build a perspective and then have a deeper repository of knowledge on that subject. So yeah, next time you're in class and you're too afraid to raise your hand, ask some fucking questions, because who knows what you'll be able to discover from that. Even like for example, I went to Walmart the other day because I was gonna get some it was like makeup remover for one of my cosplays, and I didn't really know where the makeup remover was because I had never used makeup before, and to be honest, if it wasn't for cosplay, I never would use it. So I decided to ask this lady that was kind of browsing the area where I can find makeup remover and what brands are good. And she was super nice lady. Like, she helped me out a lot. And I got some really good intelligence from some good intel from what she told me, just because I went and I asked that question. So don't be afraid to go up to strangers. Don't be afraid to talk to your mentors, your tutors, your teachers, and ask them questions on things, on anything. It doesn't have to be super big. It doesn't have to be super small. It could be in between, whatever it is. But this will make you a more curious person, and it'll just allow you to speed run getting smarter. And my experience too is like when you ask people questions on things that they're knowledgeable on and they have a lot of experience on, they usually really appreciate you asking them on about that thing, and they'll usually go really into depth about it. So it's like it's a pretty win-win situation because you get to bond with the person that you're speaking to, and you also get to learn some valuable things that can help you on your self-improvement journey. Don't underestimate the power of asking questions because it can lead you to a butterfly effect and a chain reaction of answers upon knowledge that you never would have expected that you would have received. So become more curious, ask more questions, just have an intrigue to want to learn more things about the world. And the questions will naturally come and the answers will naturally come. Every big thing started from a very small, simple question. I know this video is a little bit of a niche one, but I did want to get it out there because it will lead to some other videos on this topic of just, like intelligence and education, and becoming smarter, because it's kind of a foundation for other video topics that I'll get into, as well as kind of like a prerequisite, if that makes sense. So hopefully this video gave you guys a bit of perspective as to how to increase your knowledge and see the world through a different lens. So yeah, ask more questions, get more answers, and give it a shot,